Hello, Central Illinois, and welcome to the premiere edition of Peoria Professional. I'm Renee Horaney, social media strategist. I help small businesses, and I just want to introduce you to my good friend, Robyn Greenfield. She is the owner of Mount Vernon Business Services in Metamora, Illinois, and she does accounting and co-owner of some local H&R Block offices.
Yep.
So we're going to have a really interesting conversation today.
Yep.
And let's start with the one question you get asked the most.
So from business owners, probably the biggest thing that people are concerned with is if they lose money year after year. Now the IRS is not going to hone in on somebody specifically because they lost money. Obviously, you're in a business for a reason, and that's to make money to support yourself, right? So if you're, running your business in a business-like manner in that, you're keeping track of your expenses, you're keeping track of your income, you have experience in that particular field, just other things along those lines, are you running it in a business-like manner? Or, is your personal account the same as your business account to a great degree? If you're just starting up, obviously there's going to be some hiccups. We've all, for those of us who are self-employed, there's always that beginning scary part where, oh my gosh, is this going to make money? What happens, about paying my bills? So we tend to, maybe be a little more fluid with our cash during that time. However, as your business progresses, it should also progress that you have separate, your money is separate from the business's money. Otherwise, you're going to end up bankrupting your business anyway. I see that quite a bit with people that they keep everything together and then they wonder why their business doesn't have any money when the business has to have some savings too, just
Right.
like you should have some savings. But so if you find that you're bankrupting your business all the time and you're not able to weather the ups and downs of business, then you might need to look at how you are managing that money. Are you separating your money from your business's money?
Yeah, that's a great point. And I can relate to that. I had my own business for a few years now, and it's not easy to know when to transition. Just like it's not easy to know when to do a lot of things when you're self-employed.
Right.
I think that if we need what business owners need is guidance, and we need someone that we can ask in confidence. Just be honest with, like, I'm honest with you
Right.
about my own business, and there's a great comfort in that, because you can direct me and guide me, and you don't make me feel like I'm not intimidated. I don't feel
Right.
bad or any more than I would,
Right.
But anyway, so like, how do you think, what's another area that you are able to help people?
Well, I think as an outsider to their business, I can be a little more objective about how things are going on in their business. I'm also a business owner, so I'm familiar with some of the pitfalls of being a business owner, but it's also nice that there's somebody who's outside of that to kind of take an overall look at where things are at and how things are, and then just, provide some additional guidance where they might need it. I do come across quite a few business owners through some networking, and that's how Renee and I met, was at a networking event a few years ago. And so you get a lot of input and see how other people are doing certain things and what's working for them, what's not working for them. Not to say that you should then complete your template based on somebody else's model. You're going to do what's going to work best for you, but at least it's some other ideas.
Yeah, I think it's helpful when we know what mistakes other people have made. I learn a lot through podcasts because people tend to just put it all out there as to what they've done,
Right.
But
Not necessarily with any filters either, so.
right, yeah. But I think let's go back to the networking, because for me that's where it all began. I wish I had known about networking but long before I did, it would have been really helpful even in my corporate life. But we met through, without saying any names, but we met through a women's networking group a few years ago, and we just kept bumping into each other.
At other groups, yeah. So I think at that point, I was new to the group, but I think you had been with the group for a little while, so everybody kind of knew you. And it's really intimidating when you first come to a group. It's definitely not easy because you don't necessarily know anybody there, and people are going to gravitate towards people who they know. So they might catching up and things like that. And Renee was probably one of the only people that actually came up to me and talked. And I don't know, we just clicked. So then we met later for coffee and bumped into her at a couple other networking groups, and then stayed connected. She's done some great workshops and I've attended those, and then she invited me to a couple other ones this last year, and so I became members of those groups. And it does take, there's that transition where, okay, now you're part of the group, but you kind of have to stay in it a little bit and not judge it just on that first meeting.
So you help a lot of people who are just starting off with a business or thinking about doing that. Yes. And so let's delve a little bit deeper into some best practices for networking. Because I think, most of us probably attend a networking event for the first time by invitation.
Correct.
But you found that particular group on Meetup.
Right. I'd gone out to Meetup and found some other local groups to kind of go out and just start networking. I was not of the mind that I wanted to cold call. That is just it. But when I think about it later, it's like, well, really, cold calling is kind of networking. It's just a little different structure, right? But it feels less productive to me. I'm not saying that cold calling is bad. I just found that kind of that networking, the social interaction with people was fit me a little bit better. I'm not coming in. It's like you don't ask the girl to marry you on the first date.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you're getting a chance. So if you go in with that mindset, I'm trying to meet as many people as I possibly can. You don't know if that person who you're talking to needs your services right then, but that doesn't mean that they will never need your services. Another person that I met at a networking group, and it was 3 years ago, she contacted me this year, so like a month ago, to help with her accounting and bookkeeping and payroll.
Wow.
So it's, the seeds that you plant 3 years ago, it may take a long time. You heard the analogy about, was it the bamboo plant? You water it and water it, water for 4 or 5 years, with nothing going on above the surface, but it's, it's building its root system underneath. And then in the 5th year, it grows 80 feet.
Yeah.
A lot of time it's definitely a patience thing. It's a patience thing.
Right. And I think that sometimes when, these things that happen in our early days of starting a business can make or break us. It can be the kind of thing that either intimidates us because we're an introvert. We weren't invited necessarily to a group. We go in, like in your situation, you go into a group of about 20 women and they're all friendly and happy and chatting, but they're talking to each other and not to you.
Right.
Right. And so, I don't know, did you ever go back?
I did not. No. I did
not.
Oh,
what a shame. Didn't go back.
No.
So I'm glad that I did talk to you so that we could build this relationship that we've had. But never once have I thought, you know what, I got to call Robyn and get some business out of this girl.
Right.
And you've never called me and said, I got to get some business out of this girl. So that's where the relationships come in. And I know everyone has heard this, but we buy from people that we know, like, and trust. And so the networking is fantastic for getting there. But I have to say, it just begs this. Social media is where we continue that relationship, because we probably wouldn't have continued if we weren't Facebook friends.
That's true. because that person then is more front of mind. I see them, I see your feeds, I see other things that are going on, and as I see that, because we're very busy. I mean, everybody is busy. You've got your family, you've got work, you've got other things that are going on, and what are the things that you're seeing all the time? Well, I see Renee on Facebook, or I see other people on Facebook, and so they're very front of mind, which can be a good and a bad thing. I think keeping it all in perspective, and I think it's a good thing. It's a good way to connect with other people.
Yeah, and on the subject of Facebook, please share the name of your Facebook business page.
It's Mount Vernon Business Services on Facebook. I do have some. I do get people. I share it out every once in a while and do the advertising. So there's a lot of great features with Facebook. The video, the Facebook Live, all of that is a really good resource for your business to get out there and just speak for 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be as a long process. It doesn't have to be a half hour. You don't have to come up with what are the things that we see. It's those little short videos that we tend to pay attention to. The girls that are in the car and they're using these funny voices. Okay, that's the ones. That's the ones we watch. Right. Or I'm going to look at the first few minutes and see, do I want to continue watching it? So if it's a short video, I'm probably more apt to watch that. And then being able to push your page out as well. I mean, there's a lot of great advertising opportunities with Facebook that are, really cost effective. $10 and it's going to push out to 500 people. If I get somebody right that second, I probably won't, but you just never know what seed that's going to plant for later on.
Right. Wasn't planning on talking about this, but it just reminds me, must have been last fall. I'm in Toastmasters, and I went to help with a speech contest that they do twice a year.
Sure.
And this woman who I had never met before said to me, I introduced myself, and so she told me her name, and she says, "Do you do social media?" And I was like, "Yes."
Right.
And she says, "Well, I saw one of your videos today." The same day.
Yeah.
This is so bizarre. I hadn't made a video in weeks. And I'm like, "You did?"
Right.
And anyway, so it turns out she was on your business page.
Oh, was she? Okay.
Yes. She was on your business page and saw that you had shared one of my videos.
Okay.
I'm like, that is so bizarre. It's cool. And it's why I do what I do.
Right.
But it's bizarre.
Right.
When you think about the impact that we can have and how timeless it can be. Another thing, I had a new client who contacted me at the beginning of this year. Here's what happened. You and I were in B&I together.
Yep.
She had come as a sub because at the time she worked at SEFQ. So she subbed for a member that, at the time she was a member.
Yeah.
And so she came in twice and subbed for this person. We met. We became connected on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Okay. So then she forgot my name, apparently misplaced my business card. And how often does that happen?
Right.
A lot.
A lot.
I misplace a lot of business cards. But anyway, so yeah, because I know I gave her my business card. And anyway, so I had a work anniversary. I hit 4 years with my business. And so LinkedIn sent all of my connections, 682 people at the time,
Right.
A notification that I had a work anniversary. So it popped up on her LinkedIn, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, there she is."
That's the girl.
Yeah, she had changed jobs.
Okay.
And she went to work somewhere else and discovered that she now was in charge of doing social media, and she needed some help with it. And she knew about me, but she couldn't remember my name.
Right.
And
because how often that happens a lot too. People, we have so many people that come in and out of our lives to keep track of the names.
Right.
Even with us making a very, focused effort on remembering people's names. Again, if you don't see that person every day.
Yeah. And don't you think it's also because we have so much information that we're inundated with?
We are.
All the time.
All the time.
Like our attention spans are so much shorter, and everything is coming at us, especially with social media, which is good and bad.
Right.
But anyway, I think it's a fantastic way for a small business, but in particular, a business where, like you have, where who is, other than you, who's excited about accounting? Okay.
I don't think anybody's
Who
excited
gets
about
excited about that? Nobody.
most people when they come to see me, they are less than excited, and not that there's anything wrong with going to the dentist, but it's that same, that
Yeah, we need them.
stereotype, yes, where it's like, oh my gosh, I just want to get this over with and then know the answer to the question whether I owe money or not.
Right.
Or whether I have everything accounted for or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I hope that you have tissues on your desk. Do you have tissues on your desk?
I do. More because it's winter time and it's cold and flu season. So,
Oh, okay.
I don't usually get a lot of people actually crying at my desk. I have had it happen once or twice though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's an intimidating situation sometimes,
Well, and it's also something that is very much a part of everyone's lives. We are, you're sharing your financial information with me, and people are most protective of their food, their money, and their hair, right? So I have the money part right there, and you've got to really, as somebody who works with a client, you've really got to be cognizant of that you're talking to them. Yes, for me, this is something I do every day, but for them, it is not something they do every day. And so I really try to make a concerted effort to make sure they understand how their taxes were done and what
Right.
went into it. Not just, I put in all these numbers and here's your refund or here is your balance due or whatever.
Right.
Here's what you need to do better next year. No, I try to really kind of go through that. Here's how this is all calculated. So when they are, if they decide to do their tax return themselves, that's fine. I did my tax returns when I was younger as well, but it's your money. You really need to understand how that works for you. And especially for a business owner, you really need to know where your business is at. And if you don't know, if you don't understand or you don't realize just how much you're spending versus how much you have coming in, the outcome at the end of the year could be very different. We tend to, especially for small business owners, we tend to undervalue our services because we want them to like us, or we want them to come back to us. And if we feel that, maybe that Walmart mentality where they're going to have it cheaper there, and so I have to be able to match that price. But that could be the case. However, what are you providing that's just unique to you?
Absolutely.
That somebody else can't provide to them, or you just may click with that person where somebody else may not click with them. So
Definitely.
so don't, really taking a good look at, what you're, how you're pricing yourself at. Is it covering the expenses that you need to run that business as well as provide a living to yourself?
Right.
It's really easy when we work for somebody else. I just get this paycheck and, it's the same thing every day, or it's the same hours every week. We don't realize just how much we're worth sometimes. And I feel like as a self-employed person, you're never without a job. Now, business isn't always super great. And so there's things that I have to do to kind of, bridge the gap on that revenue, just like a big employer would. If you've got a downturn in income, what are they going to do? They're going to make some changes to adjust their business, whether it's pricing or it's, their workforce or equipment or things like that. So don't undervalue yourself as a small business owner. And I think as a community, we really need to support our small business owners because, things happen.
Right.
There's a downturn in the market, and then, a big employer is closing plants or they're closing stores, but there's still a whole group of people that still live in that area. Are you really at their mercy? I guess that's what drove me to be self-employed. Is I got tired of being driven by the whims of a big company.
Yes.
And I'm not faulting them. You have to look out for the survival of the company. I have to look out at the survival of my company, which is, me and what I'm able to provide for my family. So I think if we're supportive of our other small business owners, that
Definitely.
really will go a long way to keeping our communities really financially stable.
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so many things I want to say to all that. I completely agree with supporting the small businesses and not just going after what's convenient or cheap, because cheap is cheap.
Right. You get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for.
Right.
Exactly. But you mentioned like starting a business. And I think this is really interesting because in challenging times, we want to know we have options.
Right.
And certainly having your own business is an option.
It is an option.
Not for everybody.
Right.
But I think that we go into it with whimsical ideas.
Right.
Sometimes.
Right.
Or completely the opposite, where we think I could never do that.
Right.
That isn't for me, when in fact, maybe they could do it.
Right.
And so I think that what I discovered is a lot of the important lessons that I've learned aren't openly talked about because people are protective of themselves and, they've been told, pretend that you're successful even when you're not.
Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make
Fake it
it,
till you make
whatever
it,
the
yeah.
case.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of people who are out there like suffering, because they don't know who they can trust and who they can talk to about what's really going on to actually move forward.
Sure.
But you provide some services that can help people with that.
Sure.
Right?
Really kind of looking at their financial situation, the way it is currently, and then helping them to, go down the path to putting together a business plan. What is your business going to be? How is it going to be structured? Are you going to be, a sole proprietor? Or are you going to be a corporation or an LLC? Those are all things that are, questions that at the beginning of your journey, you really should answer. Mm-hmm. Now, if you, just jump in feet first, just because you do that initially doesn't mean that you can't circle back and then try to structure some of these things a little bit later. Right. So I never would say, oh, hold off on starting your business until you have all this other stuff. If you've got some momentum and you've got some things going on, definitely, follow those leads, right?
Right.
But at some point, you're probably going to need to do a good evaluation of your business and where it stands financially, because if it's not making money, why are you in business, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a great question. We always say, what's your why?
What's your why? Absolutely.
What's your why? And so, and I'll just tell my little story real quick. But I studied advertising and marketing in college, and I always did something related to sales, marketing, management, advertising, that sort of thing. But I found myself selling cars. It was not an easy way to make a living.
Right.
And I was promoting my business, essentially, on Facebook. And so people started to take notice that, it was working and what I was doing and so forth. And so someone said to me, hey, Renee, you're really good at this. Do you ever teach workshops on using Facebook or anything? And I said, yes, I do. When you see an opportunity, right?
Right. Absolutely. Take the opportunity.
Yeah. So a month later, I held my first workshop. This is just over 4 years ago. And then it just kind of, it was one of those things. I always had Wednesdays off, excuse me, from the dealership. And so I would teach a workshop every Wednesday. Then I reached a point where I had also a network marketing business, and I was doing okay with that. And then I'm making some money with the workshops, and all of a sudden we hit summertime. Okay. Well, in the car business, sometimes, I'm not going to speak for every dealership, but I know in this situation, the inventory was depleted because the new cars come out later in the summer, early fall, mid-fall, that area. And so if you don't have new cars on the lot or as many, then you don't get as many trade-ins, so you don't have as many used cars. And if you don't have new cars or used cars, you don't have much to sell.
Right.
Right? And so I just basically went running for my life. So that was not the ideal situation. Boys and girls, take note. Don't do that. Yeah. But that's what I did, right? And I was just going on passion. And my passion was that, well, first of all, selling cars, sometimes people liked me and sometimes people only saw me as a car salesperson. and they're not
Right.
very nice.
Right.
Be nice to car salespeople, okay?
They're people too. They have feelings.
They're people too, exactly. But anyway, so I was like, I was spending 52 hours or more a week at something that was not always making me feel good. And I spent 2 hours a week at something that made me feel fantastic. People loved it,
Right.
and I'd get these messages like 2 hours after a workshop. Oh my gosh, I already, what you taught me worked, and it was like, oh my gosh. So I felt good because I felt like I was making a difference, and I felt like I was really helping people. Okay, and that feels good, and that is
Yeah.
like a big part of why people want to have their own business,
Right.
because when someone leaves your office
Right.
and you helped them,
Right.
you found things in their business that they can write off that they didn't know
Right.
about,
Or gave
and-
them some hints, or here's some tools
Yeah,
to make things easier for them. Yes.
Like the app that you shared on tracking mileage. What was
Right.
that called?
Mile IQ.
Mile IQ. Exactly. So I mean, there's things that we do in our business when we have our own business where we feel like, oh my gosh, I'm helping people.
Right.
And so like that drove me.
Yes.
Right. Well, that's not necessarily a fantastic business decision.
But that's where that's your starting point. So
Exactly.
you just go from there.
Right. And so we need people like you, that can come alongside of us and say, that's fantastic. You do provide value. Now let me help you tweak that.
Right. Right.
Right. And anyway, so I want to talk a little bit more about also like starting a business, because for any of you who are thinking of starting a business, maybe you've recently started a
Right.
business, there's just some things we're just going to like lay it out there. Okay. If you're still watching, this is for you. So, networking, let's go back to that for a second.
Sure.
Okay. Networking, I think that it takes a while to kind of find your people.
It does. It does.
Right?
Because I've been to a number of groups, and I think I finally, the couple of groups that I joined this past year, that was my group. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, that's your sales force.
Yes.
Because I have tons of Renee's cards. I have tons of other people's cards. So when I'm talking to people, not, business owners or just, people on a personal level, I'm listening for needs. Mm-hmm. And if I hear something that sounds like, hey, this is something that, Renee would be, I pull out one of her cards and I give, so I have a little pouch in my purse that I throw my cards in. So then I've got some of her cards, and I have cards for, other businesses. And so I'm just listening to those needs.
Yeah.
Or I'm pulling out my phone. Here, let me share the contact with you. So
Definitely.
texting them the contact information for that person. So that's how we help each other out. Mm-hmm. When I started my business, now it's been 7 years ago, we were in the midst of, the company was reorganizing, and the person who's now my business partner, Donna Thompson, they had reorganized it. So she'd retired, and then I had moved to another district, and everything was up in the air. So it's like the opportunity presented itself. I talked to Donna. She had done a great job in the company. And so I was like, that's who I want to partner with. And then it's been, not that it's smooth sailing ever since, but her and I get along pretty well. So
Right. So you mentioned giving business cards. And I just think that we need to focus on helping other people. Too.
yes.
But are we done? Okay, so I just want to thank you, Robyn. Appreciate you helping out with this and being my first guest and so forth. Everybody, check out Robyn on her Facebook business page.
Mount Vernon Business Services.
And check back with us next week, too.
Thanks.
Thank you.